if you had to have your top 5 heroes that gave us the guy we got today, because when I got the Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, I'm going to be very honest. I was like, maybe I'm gay, because I couldn't stop looking at your body, and I was like, this is why. When I work out, I put your documentary on Netflix. I put it on. It inspires me, and so, but you draw inspiration from men, like I do, and I know you did. So who are your top 5 Hall of Fame dudes that gave us the guy we got today?
Well, I mean, I think that the first one was Reg Park. And Steve Reeves. These were guys that did Hercules movies.
Yeah.
And that inspired me to get a body like that, but also inspired me to have a vision beyond my career, which was to get into movies. So to me,
that's fucking fascinating. I never realized that.
Yeah, to me that was very, very important. That I said to myself, when I started reading about the Reg Park and about Steve Reeves in the magazines, it was very clear that this guy's won Mr. Universe, not only once, but I mean, like Reg Park won it 3 times, Mr. Universe. And, and then Cinecittà in Rome, which was the town where they did the movies, they discovered him and they brought him down to Rome. And they had him do Hercules movies, and he made several Hercules movies. And I said to myself, that's what I have to do. I have to get that good. I have to win Mr. Universe so many times so that they would notice me also, and blah, blah, blah. And all. So it gave me a vision. So Reg Park and Steve Reeves was the number one, the guys that were very important. Muhammad Ali was very important because when I came to the United States, I hung out with him. And he was a very generous guy, and he was fascinated with bodybuilding, even though he didn't want to work out with weights, but he was fascinated by that whole thing. He always had me push him around. He loved when he'd say to his guys, he says, watch this, watch what Arnold does. He says, push me against the wall. And then I would grab him and then push him against the wall. And then he would say, see guys, you see what I'm saying, how strong he is? Can you believe that? I mean, in order he just loved it. And he also, just loved calling me Schwarzenegger. He was like, as a matter of fact, we just saw a playback on one of the interview shows where the interviewer said, next coming out is Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he says, yeah, Schwarzenegger. And he said, I didn't say that, the interviewer said. I didn't say that. And he says, no, this is we're coming out Schwarzenegger. And he mumbled, Schwarzenegger. And he did it with me also. He would say, this guy, he's one of us guys. He says, just look at his name, Schwarzenegger. And he's like, unbelievable, and he says, it's one of us, and he just loved me, and it was, so I watched him all the time. And I went one time, people always talk about, he gives away money, but I saw him one time in the airport giving $100 to some guy that was begging for money. He didn't even look how much money he had in the hand. He just gave it to him, and he says, this doesn't mean anything. He says, I'm not into money. He was never into that. So he was like a very, very kind of generous person. And I realized that how generous he was, but he started his foundations then, he started giving money away, and he was always thinking about a bigger cause than boxing was.
Yeah.
And then also learned from him how he sells boxing through his personality. And so I wanted to do the same thing. So the purse went up, from $2 million for a fight, to $5 million for a fight, $10 million for a fight. It was all because of personalities and who draw the most. And so I wanted to do the same thing in bodybuilding. So he was a kind of an example for me for generosity and being smart and being beyond just the sport and really not just beating up, like he always said, there's a time where you beat up on guys and put them down, he says, but there's a time where you lift up the whole sport. And this is the most important thing. And I want to do the same thing. Okay, I want to pump up and I want to go and win and, destroy my competition. But then there was a time also to build the whole sport up and to make it actually a bigger sport, offer more cash prizes and all that. So they were very important with that. But then when I got more and more into a kind of life and the global thinking, I think people like, for instance, when I met my father-in-law, Sergeant Shriver, he taught me a lot about, generosity, about this service and giving back to the community, giving back to your town and to your state and to your country in some way. And he was, of course, the president of Special Olympics. And his wife, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, started Special Olympics. So I got involved with Special Olympics. So he taught me about service and all of that stuff. So he became kind of a mentor. Ronald Reagan became a mentor.
Jesus.
Because to me, I was always a Republican, right?
Yeah.
And so when Nixon was campaigning in 1968 against Humphrey, and he talked about, get government off your back and less taxes and a strong military, strong law enforcement. I said, this is me. I love this guy. And then Humphrey talked more like a socialist in Austria, right? So I didn't like that. So I said, what party does he belong to? They said Republican. I said, well, then I'm a Republican, And so I followed Reagan, of course, and I was campaigning for Reagan, and he became one of my heroes. And then Gorbachev became one of my heroes, because he was able to recognize that communism doesn't work, and to have the balls
to do that,
to be president of Russia and to say communism doesn't work. Let's dismantle this whole thing that doesn't work. I mean, it's like unheard of. I've never heard of anything like that. And he had the balls to do that. So I said to myself, that's courage. And I admire that, And so I became a big fan of his, met him many times, went to Moscow, had meetings with him. I always talked to him about international policies and also movies. He just loved, for instance, he wanted me always to do The Crusade, a movie that I wanted to do in the 90s. And when I met him in the 90s, he always said to me, he says, you must do the Crusade, must do the Crusade. It's very important. It's an important message today, about, coming together, religions coming together and all this stuff, and not always fighting against each other. And so he was what? Mandela. I mean, when I went down to South Africa and promoted Special Olympics in South Africa, Mandela was there, and he was greeting me at Robben Island at his prison cell, right? And then we went in there to this prison cell, and we lit a torch. We lit a little torch that we then took out from his prison cell, where he was in prison for 27 years, and then we took it out to the courtyard of the prison, where there was 150 Special Olympians standing out there, and I was lighting the torch of hope with the Special Olympians and with Mandela. And Mandela was one of the guys that I admired so much because he taught us about forgiveness. I mean, here's a guy that became president and could have kind of turned everything around and had the blacks pay back the whites in South Africa for the misery that they went through for so many years. And no, he didn't do that. He says, that will make me feel better. Yes. He says, but it wouldn't be better for the country. He says, we need to do what's best for the country. We got to come together. And I said, oh my God, this guy is like magic. I mean, I've never even heard of anyone talk that much about forgiveness like that and being able to do that. So just to mention some of my heroes, because
quite a
those
list.
are the people, but those are the people that inspired me to be who I am, And when people say to me, it says, well, what's the most, what's the thing what job, the movie business or the bodybuilding or the governorship? I said, what is the thing that you're most proud of? I always tell people, I said, none of them. I said, what I'm most proud of is that I'm me. That I was able to mold myself into a person that I am today. A person that is generous, a person that has a vision, a person that is not shying away from working hard and all this stuff. And all of this kind of stuff that's what I'm proud of, because that is what made me win Mr. Olympia 7 times and Mr. Universe 5 times. That's what made me win the governorship. That's what made me go and do all of these great movies and be able to reach out and to kind of give something back to the community and all of this stuff, and have the interest in doing, for instance, the Pump app, and to do all this, to give something back and to really inspire people. I say to myself, if I've been inspired by so many people, that's why I always say I'm not a self-made man, that I am a creation by all of those people I just mentioned and so many others. I said, then I have the responsibility to inspire other people. And we all have to do that. Like you guys, you have your podcast, a fantastic podcast that everyone knows internationally. And but you have to, that comes responsibility right? The bigger your podcast gets, the bigger the responsibility, because you got to go always and pump people up. You have to entertain them, obviously, which is, of course, why people tune in, because you guys are really fucking funny, and you make me laugh when I hear you, and you make everyone else laugh. And so, but you have the responsibility to encourage people, to pump them up, and to go and to give something back and to be useful and all of that stuff at the same time. That's our responsibility. We got turned on by somebody to sit here today, and now we have to do the same thing to pump other people up and say, you can do it too.
You got me fired the fuck
I
up
know,
right
I know.
now, man.
I'm going to go fucking bench 315.
Yeah. Shit. I'm ready to go, dude.
You really are fucking awesome.
Well, thank you.
Bert and Tom, Tom and Bert. One goes topless while the other wears a shirt. Tom tells stories and Bert's the machine. There's not a chance in hell that they'll keep it clean. Here's what we call 2 bears, 1 cave.